and welcome in to the Josh Ennis Show. It's Josh and it's Jilly. How are you, Jilly?
Good.
Jilly is good. Everybody is good. Glad you're with us today for the first time at noon.
Does Luther not get an introduction anymore?
I said Luther, I thought. Did I know? Well, sorry. Then Luther is also here.
Boy.
I apologize, Luther. I did not mean to hose you. But Luther is here as well.
Rude.
I know. We're glad you guys are hanging out with us today here on Twitch. Of course, the podcast is off and running at noon today, and this is the new permanent time. The new permanent start time for the podcast is noon Central, 1 East. So we appreciate you there. And, of course, if you miss it, you can catch it. Then we're on at 2 o'clock here on ESPN 97.5 and Twitch. So we're rocking. We're rocking and rolling, man. We're ready to go. And Matt Moscona is actually going to join us here in about 20 minutes. We haven't had a guest on the podcast that wasn't Jim or John Cassio in a long time.
It's been a minute.
But he is going to join us. We'll talk some of this college football stuff. But before we get into any of that, I do have to tell you about Dr. Busby from ToeGrips.com. ToeGrips.com. Luther loves ToeGrips.com because ToeGrips.com is where Luther gets his Encore Mobility. That's right, Encore Mobility that helps Luther get around. He was at the park yesterday.
He was running at the park yesterday.
He was going nuts at the park yesterday.
Uphill.
I know, uphill, downhill, all around.
Mm-hmm.
Last night at like midnight, he's all jacked up and like out in the back, the little yard we have here, running around, playing with his toys, wrestling, tug of war. My man has got he is nuts, and I love it. So that's because of Dr. Busby and ToeGrips.com. It helps renew the vigor and vitality of your puppy, restores mobility and comfort. It's great for hip and joint flexibility. I tell you, man, Dr. Busby is awesome. She's a great, wonderful lady that's been so great to us. ToeGrips.com is where you get the Encore Mobility. It is a joint supplement that contains green-lipped mussel and New Zealand deer velvet, which is a novel ingredient that's not found in the big-name joint supplements in the USA. But Dr. Busby made it happen. She got it approved through the FDA, all that, and then bam, the USDA and the FDA. And now the Encore Mobility is there and ready to go. Of course, you can also get the toe grips there at ToeGrips.com. Those help your dogs walk around on wood floors if they maybe have suffered an injury, have arthritis, have maybe age has caused them to get around a little worse, surgery or a disability. But those dogs still get around great on the grass and outside, and on carpet. Well, the Toe Grips can help you out there. ToeGrips.com. ToeGrips.com. And if you use the promo code Luther, 30-day money-back guarantee, of course, always, but a 10% discount if you use the promo code Luther. 10% off using the promo code Luther at ToeGrips.com. That is ToeGrips.com. Dr. Busby, she'll take care of you, and so will Mr. Dr. Busby. They are awesome people. ToeGrips.com. Thank you very much. All right, so today, again, Matt's going to join us in about 15 minutes or so. You talk about a guy whose livelihood is centered around all of this college football stuff. That's a college town. That's Baton Rouge. Of course, yep. Matt is from 104.5 ESPN in Baton Rouge, and they have LSU in their cluster. The thing that's really interesting for guys like Matt, and obviously he has a very a big stake in needing college football. Like, he needs it. Like, he could do a good show without it. But Baton Rouge needs college football. These towns like Baton Rouge need college football. And people have a hard time understanding that. They think you're wacko, Southerner, you don't care, you value commerce over life and all that. Those are the kind of arguments you get from a lot of people, when in reality there are a ton of people that aren't from these small towns. There's people that aren't from Baton Rouge or Athens, Georgia, or Columbus. Well, Columbus, Ohio is actually a pretty big city. It's like market 30-something, but you start looking at Auburn or Tuscaloosa or College Station, and you start to look at these places, and you go, they need it. Like Baton Rouge, the economic impact that LSU football has on that city is like $300-400 million in the fall. It's a huge thing. It's huge for restaurants. It's huge for bars. It's huge for everybody. It's gigantic how big college football is for these towns, and people just kind of mock you when you say that. And obviously that's not the main story of that today, But you start looking in the Big Ten. Do you think college football's not important to State College, Pennsylvania?
I mean, think of the travel, like hotels. Like, these are not cities that people go out of their way to visit unless there's college football happening.
Correct.
That's a ton of money for these little towns.
Oh, it's huge. And and you see that today the Big Ten, well, they haven't made it official, but the reports are out there that they're going to cancel the season, and people think the Pac-12 could follow. Everything we're reading is the SEC ain't following. The SEC is like, we'll try to figure something out. That's football country, and I hope to God they don't cancel. See, here's one of the interesting angles that hasn't been talked about enough when it comes to this story. What do we hear about college athletes all the time, about college football players, right? Like, the issue that I run into when you're dealing with college football players, you get the argument that college football players should be paid. And I don't disagree with that. I have no issue with the idea that college football players should get paid. I have no issue with the idea that college football players should make money off their own likeness and name. I have no issue with that. The problem I run into here is now people conveniently use the argument of, well, these are just kids. And I was reading a story today from some guy, I think it was in Cincinnati. And I was reading a story today where some guy says, these are someone's children. So what is it? Are these 18, 19, 20, 21, 22-year-old people, are they men or are they children? Because children shouldn't get paid millions of dollars or thousands of dollars to play a sport, should they? They're children. They should do it for the love of the game. So be consistent is what I ask for at a lot of these groups. What are they? Are they kids or are they men? Are they kids? Are they adults? Because if they're adults, and I think a lot of you think they are because you think they should be paid, you think that there should be, you think they should get treated differently. You consider them slave labor because they're not getting paid millions of dollars to play. We see this all the time from people. If this is the case and you don't consider these guys to be men, or you do consider them to be men any other time, then let men decide whether or not they want to play college football. And there's obviously a huge number of them, big-name guys, including Joe Burrow, who's obviously not playing anymore. But Joe Burrow had a pretty profound tweet today.
I mean, for some of these kids, like, this is their livelihood. If Joe Burrow didn't play last year, which was what he was saying in his tweet, he'd be looking for a job right now, like, at a bank or something. But because he was playing last year, like, had this happened last year, Joe Burrow would not have been the number one pick in the draft. He probably wouldn't even be in the NFL.
It's very likely.
So that's his life. I mean, these kids, like, this is for a lot of them, this is like their make or break.
Correct. And that's why they want to play. I consider them to be adults. If a guy can go fight in a war, and I know a lot of people use that, but if you're 18 years of age, you can go pick up a gun and you can serve your country. If you're not playing college football at 18 or in college, at 18, you're expected to be part of the workforce. Go find a job, be a plumber, go be a plumber's apprentice, go work at Starbucks or Burger King. People expect you to go out and earn your keep. These are adults. And obviously the adults, quote unquote, who are in charge have bungled this thing terribly. I mean, I don't think that's unfair to say. There's no leadership involved in this. You've got these different conferences doing their own different things, people canceling. There's nobody kind of overseeing college football as a whole to make sure that something happens. But at what point do you start to look at these guys and say they are adults?
And they
are
make their
adults
decision.
And they can make their own decisions.
If they want to play, let them play. If they don't, if they want to opt out like some kids have, that's fine.
Do it that's how the pros do it. That's how the professional players do it. They go out and they say, I don't want to play. And there have been some decent named players that have said, I don't want to play at baseball, football, and everything. If they don't want to play, don't. Now, I understand that it's a different universe because these are guys who are expected to be on a campus. I don't have that answer. I don't have the answer for what you do on campus. I don't have the answer for that. I'm not an expert on these things. But you've got guys who want to play, and people consider them adults every other time. Like, it's funny with college athletes, the only time we don't consider them adults is in a situation like this, or when they go out and get in trouble, and it's, well, they're just college kids. College kids are going to do stupid things. They're either adults or they're not. If a guy is 21 years old, right? A guy's 20, 21. How old is Trevor Lawrence? He's like 20, 21?
I think he's 21, probably.
Okay, so Trevor Lawrence is old enough to have a beer. Trevor Lawrence is old enough to be out in the workforce, old enough to have a wife. He's old. He's 21 years old, right? He's an old enough guy to make that decision. Then he should be old enough to make a decision as to whether or not he wants to play college football.
Well, I also think he had a really good point, and he was kind of like one of the first ones that started tweeting all this last night. I thought he made good points too. Like, I mean, you say they're men and they should be treated as men, but at the same time, some of these 19-year-old kids are going to go out and just find clubs and find parties and find other things to do if they're not playing football. The football actually helps discipline a lot of these guys.
Oh, no, and that was part of their argument is, now...
If there's nothing else to do, I mean, they're going to go out and probably spread the Rona or whatever. They're not going to wear their masks because they're probably angry.
Well, and that's also easy to say because, they're trying to play. Now, who's to say that they still wouldn't go out and do something? I mean, we saw some moron from, the Indians. Some moron from the Indians knowing what's going on with the Cardinals, who are a disaster, and they should just be kicked out of the league.
Yes.
It's like, how many double headers can you have the Cardinals play? They're going to play like 15 double headers to make up for all this? The Cardinals are a joke and should be kicked out of the league for the rest of the year. Every team they had on their schedule should just get a forfeit victory and move on because they're a waste. But there was still a moron that went out and defied the rules and said, I'm going to go out, I'm going to party, I'm going to have a good time with my friends and have a dinner, even if it was just a dinner on a Saturday night. And now they sent his ass home because, they're afraid he might have the Rona. So they sent his ass home. College dudes are going to screw up. They're going to go out and get stupid. You're on a college campus. It's going to be hard. If you're allowing students on campus, shit's going to go down on these college campuses that aren't going to make people happy, right? Like, I know some colleges aren't going to have students, but let's say they are. Let's say it's LSU, Alabama, Georgia, wherever, and they've got full classes, right? And they've got people. Do you think those guys are just going to go to class and go back to their dorm?
Right.
No, they're going to go out and they're going to go to restaurants. They're going to go to bars. They're going to go out and hang out. And the Rona's probably going to be spread. There are legitimate concerns about this. Like, it's not like I'm not mocking people that say, hey, how do we pull this off? Like, how does this happen? But just like in baseball or just like in basketball or hockey, these guys, some are in a bubble, some are baseball players, and they are professionals. And these guys, some have made a decision to play, some have made a decision to not play. For me, give these guys the opportunity. We keep saying athletes' voices need to be heard, and all. Well, then let their voices be heard.
I mean,
why not let them play?
If MLB can travel around, then there's no reason why these college football players can't play. And then you know what? If a team gets infected, that's the risk. But you know that going into it.
Well, here's the issue I would have with that. Now, obviously, college football teams have like 100 guys on the roster, but
right.
But my problem I would run into, if we're looking to be fair about it, the issue I run into with the college football, the idea that college football has this. You've got all these guys. If one dude gets it, if baseball is any sort of example, I mean, the Cardinals have been shut down for 2 weeks. Like, are you going to shut down a college football team for 2 weeks? And if you do that, the season's over. That's
right.
2 out of 12 games
you would
or
have
10
to
games.
Just, at
it's
that
over.
point, your season's done, yeah.
Correct. So, I mean, is it really someone's going to get it. Almost every college football team will have somebody. When you've got a team that's got 100 players, when you've got tens of, 20, 30 coaches, how many coaches and staff members and athletic trainers and broadcasters and associate athletic directors, someone's going to get it. And how far away from the team or how far removed from the team does someone have to be before you say, all right, they're too close? What if it's someone that's not at practice every day, but it's someone who works in a building that Coach O may have been in? Do you shut it down?
That's exposure, yeah. That's contact.
And I get where it's tough, but I don't want to see college football go. And at some point, like I see people talking about playing in spring, right? The idea is, well, we're going to play in the spring. Well, what makes you think anything's going to be better in the spring? This thing's been around since the beginning of the year. Back in March, it was 2 weeks to slow the spread. That was 6 months ago. Well, 5 months ago, that was 2 weeks to slow the spread.
In Houston, they closed down the bars again. I think it was June 26th. So about a month and a half ago. And they said, we just need like 2-3 weeks to flatten the curve. Everybody wear your mask. We'll get through this.
That was 6 weeks ago.
Yeah.
It was 6 weeks ago. And they're still, and like, so who, like, everybody's talking like, oh, something's going to be greatly changed in February. It won't. Because, like, if you're going to play games in February, because that's when the spring sporting season usually starts, like baseball and sports like that, that means you're in training in January, probably even December. So you mean to tell me that in a matter of 2 months, when 2 months ago we were told that, the 15 days to slow the spread, wear your mask, slow the spread, stop shaking hands, slow the spread. And it appears the spread has not slowed down because everybody's still petrified of everything that's going on, right? So what makes you think in 3 months anything is going to be that much different? The other person I really despise, and I really despise this person, is the guy who is on Twitter, and it's an amalgamation I have here of this one guy. I've seen multiple people.
Yep.
But it's the pro-mask people, which, again, wear a damn mask. I don't care. I wear the Boomer Naturals mask. It's great. I'm not some anti-mask loon. That's not my argument. I'm not going to make that argument. My problem that I run into with these guys, the mask people, is they talk as if this mask is the end-all be-all. 5 months ago, Fauci laughed at the mask. Now we're told that if you wear a mask, everything will be fine in a month. We'll slow these things down.
Yeah, where was this in March?
Yeah, when you're mocking the idea of a mask back in March. But the guy that gets online and says, well, the same people who are bitching about college football not happening are the same people who are anti-mask. No, not necessarily. You talk as if this mask would have, just to be straight, if everybody wore a mask dating back to March, do you really think college football would be happening right now? Do you think the Big Ten, do you think we'd all be okay? Because I don't. Because everywhere I go, everybody is wearing a mask. I go very few places where there's someone not, unless it's out at a park. But if I'm in a store, you're forced to wear a mask.
Yeah, they won't.
If you're at the mall, you're forced to wear a mask. At a restaurant, you're forced to wear a mask. You shut down the bars, right? A month and a half ago here in Houston, you shut all this stuff down, and it still doesn't matter. So maybe people are just wrong about this stuff. And I think it's important to look at the data, and the data shows that, yes, more college-age kids are getting this than they thought they would, but many of them are surviving it. These are the things you have to look at. And then you have to look at these economies of these towns. And I know that people mock you when you talk about the economy and say you value commerce over life. No, I don't. But commerce matters, because the second this thing is over and there's millions of people out of a job and people are broke, that'll be the next complaint. It'll be, well, people are broke. There's a lot of inconsistencies here. You got to try to do the best you can to keep people afloat while trying to fight this damn thing. And Baton Rouge, which is already a dumpy place financially, Baton Rouge will be screwed if there's no LSU. Auburn, Alabama will be screwed if there's no Auburn. Tuscaloosa will be screwed if there's no Alabama. These are real things and real issues. But ultimately what it comes down to is let these dudes decide if they want to play. You've got a bunch of these dudes saying, let us play. They are adults. Yeah, treat them like adults. They're 18, 19, 20, 21. How old do you have to be before you're just an adult? These are the same loons that want 14-year-olds to go out and vote for president, yet they're people that don't believe that a college football player can make his own decision and think he should be paid millions of dollars, yet they don't think that they can make their own damn decisions.
They know what they're signing up for. They know the risks, and if they want to play, they should be able to play.
All right, I also understand the arguments. I understand the argument that what if they go home and pass? Create a bubble. You know what? Real talk. Shut down the campuses. Let kids learn online. Let these dudes learn online and that are going to get a kinesiology degree. Let all of these guys learn. I'm not talking about football players. I'm talking about people on the campus. Do it online. Let the players live on campus. Treat it like a bubble. Travel on game day only. Do that.
That would go over really well.
It would go over poorly, but let's be real. What's more important to most of these universities? What's more important to LSU? Some guy that's trying to get a degree in kinesiology, or Joe Burrow?
But
what's more important to the school? So shut the damn schools down for on-campus learning and just let the football players live there. I mean, it is important. It is a $300-400 million economic impact on the community.
But you already know there are people that are there saying, oh, these football players already get preferential treatment. So imagine the blowback.
Of course they get preferential treatment, and they should. They matter more than you.
Oh, I can't go to school because I'm not a football. Just imagine the blowback.
There'll be tons. But you know what? Be as important as the football players are. All right, before we get to Matt, who do I have to tell them about, Jilly?
Colonial Concepts and Designs.
Colonial Concepts and Designs. That's our buddy Mike Cohen. He is in the Philadelphia area, is Mike Cohen. And let me tell you, good dude. He's been with us since the beginning here on the Josh Ennis Show, and we truly appreciate that. He is awesome, and he is in the home renovation industry is where he is. He takes these dumpy, dilapidated-looking houses. Maybe you got a rundown kitchen, an outdated bathroom, whatever it is, and you're looking to change the game. You're looking to make your place look nice and shiny and new, whether it's floor and wall, kitchen and bath, cabinets and countertops, drywall repairs. He will do it for you. He's busy, too. Every time I talk with him, it takes a while to hear back because he's out there doing work. The man's putting in work, putting in effort. He is awesome. And, of course, that is Mike Cohen from Colonial Concepts and Designs. And if you mention the Josh Ennis Show, they'll take 15% off your total labor costs. 15% off your total labor costs just for mentioning the Josh Ennis Show and supporting the show. Also, they may have some job openings there. If you work in the construction, if you've worked on houses, there could be an opportunity for a job there in the Philly area. So give them a call, 609-849-7558, 609-849-7558. Only hiring good people to work on your home. Colonial Concepts and Designs by Michael. And check out their YouTube channel loaded with some great examples of the work they've done. Great dude. Check them out, Colonial Concepts and Designs. Who's next?
Next, we have Mac Knight Safety Solutions.
And Mac Knight Safety Solutions, they are great friends of the show as well. They are here in the Houston area, but they work projects across the country and the globe. They are a safety staffing and consulting company that's located in Rosenberg. Now, here's what they do. They basically, when companies have a temporary need for safety oversight on projects, they use the folks at Mac Knight Safety Solutions versus using their own people. They work in industrial and commercial construction, oil field and manufacturing facilities. They also conduct facility audits for regulatory compliance and assist their clients with developing and maintaining comprehensive safety programs. This aids them in obtaining work and reduces costs associated with workers' comp insurance and reduces employee risk and possible fines associated with non-compliance. You got all that? Basically, they are there to make sure your work site is safe and that you're protected on that work site. So give them a call, 832-363-1295. Good people. Travis is a great dude. 832-363-1295. It is Mac Knight Safety Solutions. The website is macknightsafety.com. Is that it?
That's it.
That is it.
We
All
are
right.
good.
We're good to go. Let's see if we can get Matt Moscona on the horn here to talk about some of this college football action here. Let's see if he's there. Our friend Matthew.
Hello.
Hi, Matt. How are you?
Hi, Josh. Are we live?
We are live right now on
good.
Twitch. We're twitching to the masses right now.
Hi, Twitch masses. How are you?
Matt did send me on a run to try to find his hoity-toity whiskey. First of all, how much is a bottle of this Weller 12 that you wanted me to find?
And you failed miserably.
Because it's sold out in 4 minutes. What do you want me to
be
do?
there early. I want you to be there early enough to be able to get a bottle in the allocation.
The guy told us we would have had to line up at 5:30 in the morning if we had a chance to get a bottle.
Yes, it was
Well,
stupid.
How committed are we here? And that's actually not true because I have a friend that went and was like 50th in line and got there a few minutes before 10, maybe 20 or 30 minutes before 10, and he got 2 bottles.
That can't be true.
And
because
they told us they were only
That is
selling
true.
one per person,
No,
too.
they said there were 48 bottles at this place.
Yes.
So there's no way your friend that was 50th in the line,
and
there's
one
no way in
per
hell.
person.
Well, maybe it wasn't just Weller 12 that they were after, because there's Weller 12 and there was Elmer T. Lee,
Oh,
and there was
geez.
a lot. There were other Wellers as well. There were a lot of different things available. It wasn't just that.
Next time we can just pay a homeless guy to stand in line. They live right over there.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, see, I'm
Yeah.
a thinker.
And then what we do is we trade them like a Four Loko or something for
And then
that.
boom, we're good.
Yeah, it
Oh,
could be.
that's a really good idea.
Yeah, no, that's
Next
true.
time I'm texting Jilly. I'm not texting you next time.
No, you
She
should.
had better ideas than you do.
So what?
But thank you for trying. That's very nice.
Well, you know what? I try for my friends. I try to
I
come
do
through.
appreciate
I try.
I
So,
do.
what is your level of concern, 1 to 10, that the SEC is not going to play football? 1 to 10 level of concern.
Well, the concern is 11.
Well,
You know-
but I guess realistically, because every time we talk, it's almost like, yeah, there's going to be football, there's going to be football. But then the Big Ten's out, and then maybe the Pac-12 is out. And obviously your livelihood, a lot of what you do revolves around LSU. I mean, there's $300-400 million of economic impact in Baton Rouge if LSU doesn't play. It's obviously huge. But when I ask you, like, do you legitimately fear this, or is it, hey, it's 11 if there is no season? What is your feeling about whether or not there will actually be a season in the SEC?
So I think it's important to note that all of this is changing very fluidly. Like, I'm sure you heard Dan Patrick's report this morning, right?
Yes.
That the Big Ten. Well, Bruce Feldman, or excuse me, it was Pete Thamel, who just tweeted that he spoke to a Big Ten spokesman who said there has been no vote of Big Ten presidents and chancellors yet. That has not happened. So, what very reputable national person do you believe? I don't know. But what I'm very comfortable in saying is that I know the SEC wants to play and is prepared to play even without the Big Ten or Pac-12.
Could
And they're
they
trying to-
form like a super conference with the other? I guess that would be the other themselves and the 2 other conferences or
Yeah.
the 3 others.
So the ACC is the other one that seems in. The Big 12 is a little on the bubble. So theoretically, you could have a league I mean, Josh, you know what the thing is, man? This has been such an education, I think, for a lot of fans who don't understand how autonomy in college football works. Like, people say, well, it's the NCAA. No, the NCAA doesn't govern major college football. The NCAA is the enforcement wing. They basically, okay, you can legislate all the rules and everything, but as far as who they play, when they play, where they play, all, like, the NCAA has nothing to do with that. It's all these little fiefdoms. Like, every conference controls its own schedule and all that sort of stuff. And actually, it's deeper because every school within the conference makes those decisions. So theoretically, Josh, we could have, to your point about like a power league, you could have Michigan today, for example. Jim Harbaugh just released a statement explaining why he wants to play. Michigan theoretically could say, bleep you, Big Ten, and then go join this super thing that
then what's
they have.
the point, other than money? And I guess money's the most important thing. Then what is the point of even being in a conference if you can just say, screw the conference, I'll go do my own thing?
Because there's strength in numbers, right? So if you're the Big Ten, you can go negotiate a TV deal that covers a larger footprint and slice up the pie to where everybody gets a bigger chunk, as opposed to going independently and doing it. That works for a school like Notre Dame because of the cachet that Notre Dame has, and they can go. That's why Notre Dame will never join a conference. Because
but it's not going to work for Indiana.
Right, exactly. So for Indiana, it's better to be in a part of the Big Ten. And as long as by adding a member, it grows the pie enough to where everybody's slice gets bigger, that's why you can see conference expansion. Like when the SEC added Texas A&M and Missouri, a lot of people went, why would you add Missouri? Well, Missouri was not part of the SEC's footprint already. So they added television markets in St. Louis and Kansas City, and a major state school that was in the contiguous SEC footprint. It made a ton of sense. So why wouldn't you go add Florida State? Well, you've already got Florida. You don't need Florida State. Like, Florida State's not going to grow your pie, and you've already got all those television markets covered in the state of Florida.
Sure.
So anyway, I guess the point is, you asked why be in a conference, because there's strength in numbers. But
could this end up having a long-term impact where after this all goes down, you could look at a school like, there aren't too many Notre Dames, obviously, but like if Alabama wanted to be its own entity, Alabama might be able to. Michigan may be able to. Ohio State, like perennial top 10 teams, they do. I mean, obviously, it's far more beneficial for a Mississippi State or Vanderbilt to be in the SEC than Alabama, because Alabama could build its own monster if it wanted to, right? I mean, could this be the impetus for that?
No, because being in the league also provides you a lot of stability.
Sure.
And bowl tie-ins, a lot of different things that generate revenue. And then when you think outside of football, basketball revenue is split as well from NCAA tournament shares. So there's a lot of benefits to being in a conference. And that's why Notre Dame is in the ACC in every other sport except football. But they agree to play X amount of games a year against ACC teams now, which gives the ACC that cachet of having Notre Dame on the schedule 6 times a year.
I'll tell you one thing that's annoying me, Matt, is this idea, because people like to call them college kids, right? But they're 18 years old. They're adults, right? Like, people are selective when they call people adults, basically. If they want to make a case that they're just kids and they shouldn't be able to make a decision, they're college kids. If they should be out making $1 million because they're being exploited for slave labor, it becomes, well, these guys are adults and they should form a union and go fight. My issue is that people in this particular case aren't even really wanting to listen to these players who are saying, we're adults. We can make our own decisions. We're no different than a baseball player or football player who's making this decision. Let us play the game. And there's so many people that just scoff at that for some reason now. Like, no, kids, just pipe down. No, they're adults. They're 18 to 22 years of age. They are adults, and they can make that decision if they want to have that risk.
Yeah, they don't need legal consent. But I don't think people are scoffing at it, Josh.
There are media people who are scoffing at it.
There may be, but I think the collective, the reason that what the players are doing is significant is, I believe the single biggest risk that these universities, and by extension the conferences, have is potential future liability. Think about the NFL with the concussion and the CTE lawsuit they settled. Like, the NFL has got to implement so many protocols for concussions and testing and helmets and research to avoid future liability. If players come back and file a class action lawsuit against the league saying they ignored evidence of concussions over the years,
then sign a waiver. I mean, isn't there something they can
that's
sign?
where I'm going. That's what my point is. That's why this movement among the players is significant, because the biggest long-term risk that the universities would absorb is the potential future liability if someone did get sick and had a long-term effect, and then they collectively came back in a class action suit and said, "You let me play, you knew the risk, and I got sick." Well, if these players are saying we understand the risk and we're in, that changes this narrative very much.
Absolutely. And I'm sure that there are going to be insurance policies, like, say, a Trevor Lawrence, who's going to make a ton of money at some point in his life. Trevor Lawrence is one of the let us play guys, right? Trevor Lawrence is. So he'll sign a waiver if it comes down to that, and I'm sure he will, to play football. And I'm sure he's got, just like with an injury, I'm sure there are COVID insurance policies that he can purchase in case somehow he ends up incapacitated from the Rona at some point in his life and fails to make the millions of dollars he was supposed to make. Again, these are adults. They're adults, and they should be in a position where they can make adult decisions. Again, I know I sound condonish here, but hey, you know what? You know, you're 18 years of age. You can go fight in a war. You can go do all these things, but it's not wrong.
It's a damn double standard.
It is. Well, it's wrong.
It's a damn double standard.
Just don't tell me that kids are kids. They're adults until you need them to be kids. Don't tell me they can go out and be adults and burn down buildings and protest because they're adults and they're angry, or they should be paid millions of dollars to play college football, which I have no issue with. But if don't tell me that, and then come back at me with, well, now they're kids and they can't make their own. A lot of the same people making these cases are the people that think you should vote when you're 11. Okay, they're all idiots. These media people are idiots. So you mean to tell me that these guys can't? Like, it's stupid to me. They're adults. They're 18 years. So if they weren't in college, you would view them as adults. If they were 18 years old and were working for, a plumber at 18 and weren't in college, you'd view them as adults. They ain't kids. So just because they're in college doesn't make them kids. It's big business. That's all this is big business.
Yes.
Here's one for you, Matt. Let me throw this idea out at you. This is an idea. Okay, I have an idea. I don't know if you can.
Is there a question in there somewhere?
I'm going to throw this out at you. Tell all the college kids to just do off-campus learning. Do it on their little computers. Okay. Get rid of all the students. Then use these campuses as a bubble for the college football players and just let them live on campus and still go eat food and everything on campus, and tell the other people to just stay the hell away and learn at home. Then boom, you got a bubble. Bam, solved it.
So a couple of things. You got to remember also that most university presidents that would ultimately make that decision are academicians. And most academicians think that their higher learning is of a higher power, that they're there to educate and not to play football.
Well, they're frauds. We know they're frauds.
I don't want to classify everybody in that mix, but I think you understand. Most people in academia, especially at the highest level like that, think far more about the chemistry lab than they do about the football team.
Even though the football team puts hundreds of millions of dollars in the coffers and the chemistry lab does nothing.
Well, indirectly, but yes. So that's part of the problem. The other thing that I would tell you that I know definitively at a place like LSU is that they are going to great lengths to isolate the players as best they can. Every class that is available for online, they're enrolling in online classes to keep them away from the student body as much as they can. Roommates are being separated and trying to have, especially by position grouping, because could you imagine if you had 4 offensive linemen living together in an apartment and they all got COVID, and so you're missing 80% of your starting offensive line.
No, I get that, but you look at baseball, right? The Cardinals are a disaster, an absolute clown show, right? But they've shut them down for 2 weeks basically because some guys have had the Rona. How many people have to get the Rona on a football team for them to go, all right, guys, we're shutting it down? And then how long do they have to shut down? Inevitably, someone's going to get it on every team in the country. Someone's going to get this, you would assume. So I'm sure that's one of the big issues is what do you do once somebody does, and what does it mean for the big picture?
So the other big part that has been completely ignored nationally, which I can't understand why this has been ignored nationally, but at the end of July, Brett McMurphy, who's now with Stadium Sports, tweeted that the NCAA recommended, as far as testing goes, that if a player tests positive, they don't have to test again for 3 months. That effectively saves your season. And it makes sense because if you get COVID-19, then the odds of getting it again in a relatively short amount of time while your body has active antibodies is very low, if it exists at all. So the point is, we've all come in contact with COVID-19 already. I mean, like you have, I have, we all have. I mean, whether or not your exposure was long enough and severe enough to create symptoms or a serious reaction to it, we've all come in contact with it. Like you have breathed COVID air, Josh. I regret to inform you. You and I have both breathed COVID air.
How about that?
So
I went to Hooters, so I'm fairly certain I have.
We all, like at this point, just when you have tens of millions of people that have contracted this virus that we know of, we've all been in contact with someone who has, or we've come in contact with. So my point is, I think you could probably test every player, and every player will either have had COVID or COVID antibodies. And if that's the case, and you go 3 months without testing, then you can have your season. So I think that's something that would make a lot of sense.
All right, before we let you go, do you believe the SEC is going to play this year?
In the fall?
Yep.
Oh.
The spring's a disastrous idea to me as well, because all that does is just sets everything back. And then when would they start? February if they played it in the spring, like baseball? How would they do it?
The other thing is the massive amounts of hypocrisy. Like the MAC, which just canceled its league, says based on the health and safety of their student athletes, they're canceling the season, but they want to play in the spring. So instead,
what's going to be different in the spring?
But you're going to ask. Well, you may have a vaccine by that point, but even still, that doesn't mean people won't get COVID, just like with the flu. But the point, so you're going to ask college football players to play 2 full seasons in less than a calendar year, and that's healthy? Come on, man! Like,
that's stupid.
Let's get real. But the point about a spring, and yes, you'll lose all your stars to the NFL and your seniors and all, but it allows you to recoup something financially, which all of these athletic departments. It's so funny, Josh. Like I said, this has been an education, I think, for a lot of people. But people think there's this perception that college athletic departments make money hand over fist and they're just storing vaults of cash. That's not how it works. Yes, they generate a lot of revenue, but they spend all of that money on scholarships, housing, food, weight rooms, medical facilities, giant locker rooms with waterfalls in them to recruit athletes.
Yeah.
In
some schools, they spend it on the hookers, like at Louisville.
Like that. Flying private, staying in 5-star hotels. Like, that's one of the things that trips me out when players start talking about getting paid. Okay, then how about we load you up on a Southwest flight? You get it. Are you A1 to 16? I will put you in a middle seat on a Southwest flight, and then we'll go. You stay in a Holiday Inn, 4 to a room. Like, that's the alternative. Like if you want to start dispersing the funds elsewhere.
But I think you and I would both agree that like a Joe Burrow when he was at LSU should be able to go to Walmart and make $20,000 to sign for 2 hours. I think we both agree there. Yeah.
Which I am a million bajillion % in favor of name, image, and likeness. And I don't even think it should be regulated, Josh. I think student athletes should be able to go make whatever they want on name, image, and likeness without any regulation, period.
100% agreed.
If you can make $20,000 to go do an endorsement deal at a car dealership, go make your $20,000.
You can make $20,000 to do some fake job where you work somewhere. I don't like. Was it Rhett Bomar in Oklahoma who made like $10,000 to do nothing? So what? If somebody wants to give it to, hey, they wouldn't have to do that anymore if they would just acknowledge that people want to give these dudes money because they're football players. So let them. So,
but I think you would actually have more legitimacy to it because you have business owners who actually could stand to benefit from that professional relationship with someone that has a name. Like if Under Armour wanted to slide up in Jamar Chase's DMs and be like, hey, if we send you a sweatshirt, will you wear it for $10,000 and post it on Instagram? Okay, I got no problem with that.
I'm 100% with you. So, all right, that is the great Matt Moscona, who really, you're like the first non-Jim Mudd guest we've had on the podcast in months.
I'm honored.
But, because I moved the podcast to noon, which is already showing great numbers compared to doing it at 8 o'clock at night, which is great. But you have been heard by hundreds of people this afternoon, Matt, so I want you to feel honored. And we'll talk with you soon, okay, man?
Pay me in booze.
We'll do. Well, yes, and you pay me in Pluckers gift cards. That was my plan for the trade and everything, but I didn't get your hooch. I apologize.
All right.
All right, see you later. All right, that's Matt Moscona. So there you go.
Trump has weighed in on this.
Oh, Trump has football thoughts. All right.
He retweeted Trevor Lawrence.
Okay.
And just says, the student athletes have been working too hard for their season to be canceled. # we want to play.
He also weighed in with this.
Person, woman, man, camera, TV.
Well, it's basically what these guys are learning on campus anyway, right? They're football players. They're not there to get an education. They're there to be educated in the fine art of playing football. So perhaps that might be the extent of what you get from these guys. It might be as simple as
Person, woman, man, camera, TV. They say, that's amazing. How did you do that? I do it because I have like a good memory, because I'm cognitively there. They said nobody gets it in order. It's actually not that easy, but for me it was easy.
So at least Trump has weighed in on this. Trump has thoughts. He knows his base. And his base, they're college football people in that base.
Yep.
You know who really hates me, like with a passion?
A lot of people?
Yes. But in particular this weekend, it's Astros Twitter people.
Oh, that's no different from any other weekend.
Astros Twitter people hate me because I'm annoyed by their incessant whining about what media people say about them and other teams say about them. And they ignore the fact that their team stinks. And I say this as someone who was a multi-year season ticket holder and roots for the Astros and bet on the Astros to win on Saturday, thank you very much, and lost money on that one.
Yep.
The fans, here's my problem with the fans. Here's where they're hypocrites, okay? The fans are hypocrites because they sit around and they tell you that they don't care what anybody says about their team. They're like Philly people. No one likes us. We don't care. Yet you bitch about all the things they say about you. And you care more about that than the outcome of the game. The team is 6-9 and they look listless and lifeless. They look like zombies out there. Like it'd be losing is losing. Sometimes you're going to lose. There's no Justin Verlander there. A lot of the key members of the bullpen are hurt. And really, these young dudes have pitched their asses off. They've been really good out of the bullpen. I mean, some of these guys have been outstanding. Here's the problem. There are two things that are really annoying me. One, the team looks completely lifeless, listless, no energy. They look like they've been beaten down by the hate they've gotten from people.
I mean, at least the hitting coach, tried to spark some fun yesterday.
Yes, but that guy's also a fucking jabroni.
That was about the extent of the
I mean, come on, dude. Like
the excitement the Astros have had this year.
Basically, my interest in once that Dodgers series ended and the Astros did nothing offensively, they kind of got punked around a little bit by Joe Kelly. And then since then, I think they've gone 3-8.
So you really think like Joe Kelly has stolen their souls?
Kind of, but not just Joe Kelly. I think that there are certain people that are programmed a certain way to be the heel. Like I was talking about this, I think, with Joe and Philly on Facebook and Meltzer as well. Some people are programmed to be the bad guy and they can handle it. Some people can handle the boost. Barry Bonds was programmed to be the bad guy. Like he knew people hated him. He knew the media hated him. He treated the media like garbage, but he could do it. Some guys are programmed that way. Other guys are not. Strangely enough, Correa's been the ballsiest dude of the bunch.
Yep.
But you start looking at what the Astros are right now and you go, wait a second. So you mean to tell me that the Astros, let me change the graphic. I forgot to put your picture back up, Jilly.
I'm
Sorry,
not Matt.
guys.
I'm not
There you
Matt.
go. That is not Matt. There you go. Thank you very much. I apologize to everyone. Now, my issue is that the Astros really have no choice but to either be a heel or be extremely nice, but they're just kind of somewhere in the middle. They're not badasses. They look like someone sucked their soul out of them. Like, to me, if everybody spent the entire offseason telling me that my World Series was a fraud and that I'm cheaters, that would drive me to want to prove them wrong.
Right.
The Astros look like they were just beaten down by it. They have no swagger about them. Like you and I were talking about Bregman. Bregman used to be Mr. Flashy in the dugout staring at the camera. He's a zombie.
See, I kind of
Altuve scares the hell out of me with how bad Altuve looks out there, just from a playing standpoint and from an emotion standpoint.
I kind of put this on Jim Crane as well. I think when this all went down and he had them do those forced apologies.
I totally agree.
He destroyed that team. He destroyed them.
I totally agree
He took their swag. He took their energy. He took any chance of them being heels because he probably told them not to be.
Yes.
And now you look like, look like pussies.
They look like
Yes.
pussies.
That's the only word I can think
and
of.
it'd be one thing if you didn't look like pussies, but you were winning. I mean, you just got shamed by Oakland. The Dodgers came into your ballpark and shamed you. Like, I get it. Injuries are going to impact the team, right? I understand that. But this isn't just an injury thing. This is a team that just looks like they've been beaten down, and they don't look the same.
They do not.
They do not look like a team with confidence. They've embarrassed themselves out there. That's my problem. And people, of course, the Astros Twitter people rip me, and the Astros Twitter people say, get out of my city. You're terrible. You're awful. Your show sucks, and take all these shots. When I say the Astros are embarrassing, it's not because they lose. It's because they've let all of these media people and all these other teams that talk shit about them, they've let them win. When you play that type of baseball, that type of emotionless baseball, that type of passionless baseball, and you just look like you're going through the motions on top of the fact that you're losing, like, that's what's embarrassing about them. And I don't know how, if you're a diehard Astros fan, you can watch this and enjoy it. And, of course, then it becomes Dusty's fault. Oh, if A.J. Hinch were here, it wouldn't make a difference. A.J. Hinch is the biggest pussy on the planet. A.J. Hinch is the one that didn't stop the cheating. It is A.J. Hinch's fault that the Astros' lone championship is called into question by 29 other fan bases because A.J. Hinch didn't stop it. So don't tell me about A.J. Hinch or it's Dusty Baker's fault. It ain't Dusty Baker's fault. He can't hit for you. Dusty Baker can't put heart back in Jose Altuve, who's having a terrible season. He can't put the swag back in Alex Bregman. That doesn't exist in these guys. And it's frustrating because they look like zombies out there. They really do.
There's no fun in that team at all.
And it's no fun to watch.
When you're losing, you're not going to have as much fun. But
it's not fun to, like,
it's awful.
Like, a lot of nights I forget they are on.
I know.
I don't want to watch them. They bore me. Like, the games are boring. Like, I would love nothing more than for them to return guns blazing, cocky. Like, really, when someone calls your championship into question, like, and I'm with you on Jim Crane. God, Jim Crane. First of all, you fire the general manager who built the team, which is stupid. You can fire the manager all you want. He doesn't matter. But to fire the GM is absurd. Then you throw in the fact that you make these guys give a fake apology. And we said it when it happened. They cut their balls off.
Yep.
They took the team and neutered them. So you've got a neutered baseball team out there right now, and they look neutered. And basically, the real thing that's really bothering me the most is they are making these meathead people that really don't care that the Astros cheated. They just want to rip them for cheating because it's easy, low-hanging fruit. It irks me that they're right now proving those people right. They are making them look right.
Well, and
that part bothers me more than anything. With
Astros Twitter is giving these, jabronis, these beat writers who normally would get maybe 30 likes on a tweet. They're giving them the attention they want. This is why they rip your team, because they know you're going to respond to them and their tweets are going to blow up and then they're going to get more clout.
Yep.
And that's what they want you to do.
And that's what I really get angry with these Astros Twitter people, because they seem more concerned with the fact that some dope that I've never heard of from Oakland said the bench coach should be suspended for more than the player than being upset that the team looks completely lifeless right now and doesn't look anything like the team of a couple years ago. And I get, you're without Verlander. That's tough. I get that. Fine. I understand it. But you can lose and still look like a team that cares. This looks like a team that has just had their lunch money stolen from them. And that's the biggest issue I have. That's my problem. I feel like I'm watching a bunch of zombies. And I hate it because I want them to be better. I want them to be good. I want them to play with some level of passion. Like when I sold those shirts 2 weeks ago, I thought, okay, these guys are going to step up. And whether they win or lose, they're going to go out there and they're not going to get punked. Right now, they're getting punked. And they're just kind of taking it. Like, tell me that Jose Altuve looks like Jose Altuve. That dude does not look like Jose Altuve.
He's always so smiley and energetic and having a good time, and he just looks like neutered.
Like Twitter and opposing team media, when they trash you, there are two ways to go about it. You can either use it as fuel, or you can cower. And sometimes I've been guilty of cowering. Sometimes when a bunch of people hate me, you know what I do? And it cost me the job in Philadelphia. When everybody just said I sucked, I said, all right, I suck. Well, you know what? Peace out. I'm leaving you, right? There are different ways to go about it. Instead of rallying, instead of saying it's us versus the world, instead of saying screw everybody else. And again, maybe this comes from the very top with the owner who doesn't want them to have this kind of attitude about them. But I feel that when I watch the Astros, I'm watching a team that at one point had the option of either, and you don't even have to be full on heel. You don't have to be Ric Flair, cheat to win, pull a brass knuckle out of your trunks. Like, you don't have to be that. But you do need
Have
to
some
have
attitude,
a cocksuredness
yeah.
about you. Like Bregman, no cocksuredness. I mean, Altuve, like it almost crushes my soul to look at Jose Altuve.
It
First
does.
of all, like, and I know that their whole Twitter account's dedicated to how bad Altuve sucks right now. Well, if you want that to stop, be better. His fielding percentage stinks. He's batting like $170. He's doing nothing. So what do you expect people to do? Twitter and social media and media, it's all cruel. It's a cruel, cruel world. So whenever you give them the ammunition, they're going to keep going after you. And the ammunition exists in the fact that the Astros don't go out and get shit done. They look like chumps, and it's frustrating as hell to watch. And it's hard to watch. I don't want to watch. Like, you're a White Sox fan. Their games have been far more enjoyable to watch. You know, I'm a Cardinals fan. I wish my team would get kicked out of baseball for a year.
There are
Teach them
no
a lesson.
games.
Teach them a lesson. They're a bunch of clowns. Get rid of them.
I think they're up to 10 players that have tested positive.
God, just get rid of them. And that's one of the other things I like is some of these Astros people know that I'm a Cardinals fan, so it becomes, oh, but the Cardinals aren't embarrassing? Not the same thing, dog. The Cardinals are embarrassing. They're jabronis. They should be kicked out of the league. Please.
The other thing I hate about fan bases, too, is that somewhere along the line, it became unacceptable to criticize your own team. If your team sucks, you can tweet that your team sucks. It's not, oh, you're just bandwagon. No, if your team is not playing well, it's perfectly fine to go on Twitter and say, boy, these guys blow. But now you do that and you're like, oh, you're not a loyal fan.
Because these are a lot of
We
these
love
people.
our boys.
Well, these are people that probably became fans 3
But it happens,
years ago.
It's not just Astros fans. I mean, remember we were in St. Louis and like you said, oh, Yachty, he sucks. And this woman next to you just goes, you don't talk about Yadier Molina like that. We love him no matter what.
Yes.
Okay. You're allowed to say people suck. You're allowed to say sports teams suck.
You are. But you don't get that from a lot of people because people are soft.
And I don't know when that started.
Me neither. And I think social media has done a lot for that. And I think what happens is you get fan bases. And I was talking with Meltzer about this, and this is what concerns me about media, is there seems to be an expectation that as a member of the media, your opinions have to fall in line with the most vocal of
Yes.
fans on social media, or you don't deserve to have a job, you're a terrible person,
Correct.
you're awful, and I hate that. Like, and if you disagree with them, you're just trolling to get a reaction. Or the best response is always, you just tweeted this to get ratings. Friend, you don't know how ratings work.
Yep.
That is not how ratings work, dude. I don't tweet something, then all of a sudden, well, we went from a 0.3 to an 8 because I tweeted an opinion and gave you an honest opinion.
Or, we can just blame it on the roof. It's fine.
But there are a lot of these young people or new Johnny-come-lately fans who joined whenever the Astros became good. And now they want to fight everybody. And I blame the Clantons and people like that of the world who've built their whole character on just ripping other teams' fan bases. Who can please stop with this phrase. Living rent-free in someone's head.
Yeah,
Stop. Because you know what? If you're acknowledging that person, they're living rent or
Yes.
they're living rent-free in your head.
Exactly.
Like you're like, oh, like if somebody criticizes you, like that dude from I saw someone respond to the Oakland beat writer with this.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, oh, Astros are still living rent-free in your head, I see. You responded, asshole. So clearly you're bothered by it too.
And again,
You
as I said,
fraud.
that's exactly what these beat writers and these people on Twitter want you to do. They want you to respond. They want you to fight with them. That's exactly why they tweet.
Yes, but the Astros are just, they look like clowns and they're making everybody look right. And that's the part that really frustrates
Yeah.
me. The Astros did not win the World Series because they cheated. They were a better team. They were a confident team. They won. You could talk about cheating. Well, you know what? They won Game 7 in L.A. They won Game 2 in L.A., okay? They deserve to win the World Series. And I know a bunch of dopey fan bases want to hop on board and say they're trash and that they cheated. Fine, they cheated. And they're going to have to deal with that blowback forever, right? But they did not win because of banging on garbage cans. They were a better team. They were a great team, and they deserved to win the championship. They did. What bothers me is you sit around now, and the championship is already tainted because of monkey nuts over there that wouldn't stop it from going on, A.J. Hinch. And now you're making people look right. Are they right? No, but you're making them look right. And that's the part that's extremely frustrating about that. So you told me today that there were... that there have been over 100 complaints in Houston about businesses not following social distancing guidelines.
Overcrowding. I think I read most of them. There's like 186 between Friday and Saturday.
And so someone's out there just taking notes and sending these to old Sly Turner.
And pictures. Yep. And most of them have been restaurants.
You know how I feel. You know how I feel about these people. You know how I feel about people that are narcs. You know, what is going on in your life that I guess you have to, is there a number you call still?
I mean, I think you just call 311, like non-emergency.
Okay, so if there's a number you can call for Sly, I want to call it and say, please stop this bullshit, Sly. Anybody who's calling this is a first-class ass sniffer. Anybody who's reporting other people.
I can tell you who's calling it.
Who's that?
It's our friend you talked about earlier, our hypothetical friend on social media who tells you, well, if you would have worn a mask, there'd be football.
Yep, that guy. That guy is still calling. That guy's like, hello, friends.
Me again.
Hello. But anybody who goes out and is trying to ruin a business like this right now is a real, is not an asshole, just a bad person. And doing it under the guise of, well, we don't want people to get Rona. Those people made a decision. They decided to go to this place. And listen, you could say, oh, well, it's going to help spread this and it's never going to stop. Maybe, but we've been told for 5 months that shit was going to, this will stop the spread, and this will stop the spread, and this will stop the spread. And then it doesn't stop the spread. But trying to ruin someone's business over that is garbage. Absolute trash. So, 180 some odd complaints about it. I want to call that number and tell them to piss off. I hope Sly picks up the phone. I want Sly Turner to pick up the phone.
I highly doubt.
I will tell him to piss right off.
I highly doubt
Get
he's
out of
sitting
here,
around
Sly Turner.
answering his own phones. I don't think that happened.
Oh, jeez. Anyway, so I got to get to the radio station here in a little bit. El Tisdo says he's wearing his Just shirt in South Carolina tomorrow. Rep, my friend. And also, Harold there wants to get everybody some Just Nation bumper stickers.
Oh, see, that would be fun.
So if you're interested in some Just Nation bumper stickers, we can do that as well. So if you're in the bumper sticker game, that is something that could be beneficial.
Let's go start our new marketing campaign. I'm telling you, slap those everywhere.
Yeah.
We'll go old school with it.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you on that. So anyway.
You need to recruit Toe Flop and just have him write your...
We do. We'll get this dude
you
Toe
see
Flop.
Toe Flop everywhere.
I don't know who Toe Flop is, but I need Toe Flop to spray paint Just Nation and then Toe Flop underneath it.
Yep.
The Flyers played 8 p.m. Wednesday night. Who's ready? We're ready. We're ready, baby.
Wait, I also just make fun of McDougal because we haven't done that yet. But
Yes.
I enjoy they released the times for all the games, for the NHL yesterday.
Yeah.
And they only put the first 4.
Yeah.
Because 5, 6, and 7 are if necessary. So to fill it, they just put 3 a.m. as the time. And McDougal, bless his heart, tweets back to the Flyers, "You've got to be kidding me with these 3 a.m. games, right?"
That's McDougal, though. McDougal's not very bright. Everybody knows
favorite.
that about McDougal. Not a smart man.
They're playing at 3 a.m.
But thanks to, I've been on mybookie.ag, and somehow I was hammered, as you guys know, on Saturday. Just stone cold hammered. Don't remember
Did you listen to the end of that podcast?
I didn't.
Or to the Twitch show?
No, I didn't. I care not to. I was blitzed off my
0
ass.
to 100, real quick.
But I
for
was
you.
betting all night on the GIST system, of course, which is just betting on late overs at the last possible minute. Somehow I went from $400 and I woke up the next day and had $1,700, and I'm like, how the hell did I do this? And then I won another $800. Yeah, I've got $2,500 in this gambling account now using the GIST system.
As soon as we're done, you're taking some of that out. That was the deal.
Yes.
We're using gambling to pay off your gambling debt.
Yep. So
What a
make
world.
sure you get to a point where if you are going to bet with mybookie.ag and use the promo code radio, which would be fun. It's fun. Dude, even if you only do it for the next couple weeks while these games are happening all day, I even won on some late over-unders in hockey. I'll tell you what's fun. So say a team like last night, it was Columbus. Columbus was up 2-0. You're assuming since it's a game 5 and the series is going to be over, Toronto's going to pull the goalie with 4 or 5 minutes. It's down 2. They didn't do it until about 2.5 minutes. But the rush of taking the over on the team that has the empty net is great. It's fun. So I won on that one last night. I won on a Flyers empty netter before we came on the Twitch.
You got basketball starting here in 30 minutes
it's
today.
Great.
So.
Josh was standard drunk, completely fine until 1 second. The switch flipped and you were hammered.
Right?
Classic Josh. I don't know how that happens.
You sounded fine, and then all of a sudden it was ugh.
There he goes. Let's see. Speaking of strippers, I will be in Vegas this weekend. Any bets I should make while I'm there? Well, I have to see. Put a couple bucks on the Flyers to win the whole damn thing. I don't know what their odds are. What are the Flyers' odds to win the whole damn thing?
Good question.
Jilly has great cans, says
Thank you.
Cop Joe. So there you go. So there you go. I bet on the Flyers to win the whole damn thing. How about that? It's fun to do that. I would imagine they're the number one seed. I mean, the fluky way, but they're the number one seed. My guess is they're still not the favorite to win the whole damn thing because there's no home ice or anything like that.
Let's see. They are plus 600
to win the whole thing.
Yeah.
Shit, why not, dude? They got a goalie, man. We actually thought about doing.
And they're actually, believe it or not, they are them. The Golden Knights and the Avalanche are the all plus 600. They're the shortest odds.
Why not? It makes it fun. They're the official team of Gist. We're actually thinking about doing a Carter Hart shirt. I don't know if any of my Philly people would buy a Carter Hart shirt, but we are all about Carter Hart. Maybe we do an exclusive 100 shirts or something
That might be fun.
where for Gist Nation Philly, even for Houston people, if you don't like hockey, adopt the Flyers as your team on the podcast. Let the Flyers be your team in the playoffs. Carter Hart's 21 years old and he's a stud. And I'm thinking about doing a Carter Hart t-shirt if I can get someone to do the design for it. I talked to my guys at 97 Graphics and see if we can sell some. And I got some buddies that have some podcasts in Philly that would probably help promote it, or Tank would help promote it on his podcast. But yes.
I wonder what the Flyers were to win the cup when this started, when the whole season started way back in,
Not high. I mean, they were very long shots.
Imagine if you put some money on that back then.
Antonio Brown fart for Carter Hart. Okay, let's see. There you go.
Yay.
So I want everybody that's part of this, unless you have a team, but if you don't have a team, I would urge you to adopt the Flyers as your team. So there you go. So hopefully you guys enjoyed having the show in the afternoon or noon like this.
It seems like it. We had a much better viewership.
We did, and people are into it. And during the day, it makes it easier to get better people on the show as well, as opposed to 8 o'clock at night. So I'll get the podcast uploaded for everybody. Justin Fan 713 says he'd buy a shirt, doesn't have a clue about hockey, but wants to learn some hockey. Bam. So I hope people enjoy this. Send me a message on Twitter, wherever, and let me know that you enjoyed the time or not. I'll be on the radio here in less than an hour. So I guess
still eat your lunch.
I do. So I guess I need to go.